back to reaction, back to the very doorway where the whole show of bondage gets its audience. Fear, as you meet it this morning, this moment, in the headline, in a bill, in the body, in a memory, fear has no power of its own. Do you see that? It is an appearance. It is a shadow cast on the wall of consciousness, and it borrows life from one thing only, your reaction. Be not afraid, it is I, says the Master, and he doesn't rush to change the sea. He stills the heart. The instant the disciples no longer react to the wind and the waves, the storm is as nothing to them. Now I am saying to you, with all the authority I have, freedom begins the very instant you withdraw your reaction from fear's appearance. Don't fight it. Don't wrestle shadows. Do not take up arms against fear. Unbelieve its power. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Not the salvation of willpower, not the salvation of clever affirmations, but the quiet revelation that there is only one power. You may say, but the appearance is loud. Of course it is loud. The brass band in the corner is always louder than the silence in the sanctuary, yet the sanctuary is the reality. Fear shouts to get you to play. Don't play. Never desire to change the appearance. Let God reveal the unreality of it, and you, all right, you do one thing, withhold reaction. We are on the middle path when we neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance, not even the good ones. Neither cling to a diagnosis, nor rejoice over a prognosis, neither tremble before the creditor, nor boast with the windfall. If it is an appearance, leave it where it is. Meet it without taking sides. You're not dealing with a good side and a bad side. You're not dealing with a strong fear and a weak faith. Christ is the only identity. And in that awareness, panic has no opponent because there is nothing to oppose. You see, the very act of taking sides gives fear its soapbox. And now the promise I want you to test, not tomorrow, not after you've read another book, but in this next half minute. Immediate relief begins the moment you do not react. Right here, in your chair, let us do the simplest of drills, and then let it be yours. Wherever you stand, bill in one hand, headline in the other, or a twinge in the body. 2 slow breaths. Not to hypnotize, not to improve the blood, forget all that, just 2 slow breaths. Then, 1 split second, only that of silence. No words, no reaching. Then, as softly as you would speak to an infant in the night, don't react to the appearances. There is only one power. Again, 2 slow breaths. Again, the barest instant of wordless being. Again, the whisper, don't react to the appearances. There is only one power. Now, what has happened? Perhaps no thunder clapped. Perhaps the bill still sits there. Perhaps the body still mutters. But the graft has been cut. The appearance has been refused, the sap of your reaction. Perfect love casteth out fear. Not because love wrestles it to the ground, but because love takes no interest in the shadow. You do not even have to believe hard. You simply have to stop lending fear your belief. That is all. Faith, the measure of it, is shown by your stillness. If you can stand one moment in that non-reaction, you have already begun your freedom. And if in the next moment the shout returns, all right, we return to the middle path, to the breath, to the split second, to the whisper. This is not struggle. This is consecration. Be still in Christ, and let what is unreal pass as a cloud passes the mountain. The mountain does not move. The cloud does. Now let us make our footing sure. Faith is not what you say about God. Faith is what happens in you when the bell rings, when the wind rises, when the bill arrives. Faith, the degree of it, is shown by your reaction. Do you see that? If the hand still flies to the heart, if the mind rushes to compose a prayer as if God were far off and needed convincing, if nerves run ahead of awareness to meet the trouble on the road, then our faith is still in rehearsal. Real faith is the unhurried stillness that refuses to be moved by appearances. Be still and know that I am God. Not be clever, not be loud, not be fast. Be still and know. We are on the middle path when disturbance does not claim our attention or require our defense. Not the middle of compromise, but the middle of principle where we neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance. You don't have to prove anything to the world. You don't have to defend God or defend yourself, because God needs no defense and your true self in Christ has no opponent. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength, says the prophet. And if it is quietness and confidence that are our strength, let us not mistake nervous speech for strength, nor thought affirmations for contact. Nobody by taking thought can contact God. Thought may escort us to the threshold, words may bow at the door, but the door opens on silence. Now, it is very easy to repeat, God is all, with the tongue, and at the same instant let the heart race to the drum of the appearance. That is not sin. It is simply the sign that we have more ripening to do, more settling into the center. So we practice. We do not try to change the outward picture. We refuse to be moved inside. Take no thought for your life, said the Master. Do not feed the appearance with anxious planning. Let the appearance stand where it stands, and you stand where you stand in the One. A call came late one night. Perhaps you know that tone that seems to carry bad news before a word is spoken. For a moment, the old habit leaped to interpret, to imagine, to brace. All right, stop. No commentary, only stillness. Peace, be still. Not spoken to the world, but to the inner sea. One breath. Another. The mind wanted to run. It was gently told to sit. In that few seconds, the heat of panic passed like a fever breaking, and the voice on the line, which had begun in a rush, slowed. There was still business to handle. There were still arrangements to make, but we were not two fearful humans trying to fix a storm. We were resting in the awareness, and out of that rest, the right activity unfolded. Do you see? The call did not define you. Your reaction showed your route. So here is a simple 30-second drill, and make it yours many times a day until it is second nature. Inhale, not to do anything to the lungs, but as a gentle signal, we are home. Exhale, let the shoulders drop their weapons. One beat of silence, no words, no search, no bargaining. Then, almost as a lullaby to your own heart, say once, I do not react to appearances, I rest in the One. Again, inhale, again, exhale, again, a beat of silence. Then let the words go. Stay a moment as if listening for a friend you trust. That will be enough for now. You may say, but what if the feeling returns? All right, then we return. We do not argue with the feeling. We do not decorate it with truth statements. We do not take sides for or against it. We simply refuse to serve it attention, and we sink a little into the quiet. Be not afraid. It is I. Let that be not a slogan, but an atmosphere. And as this stillness becomes our habit, faith ceases to be a posture we assume under pressure and becomes the air we breathe in the market, in the kitchen, at the desk. Non-reaction is not laziness, it is consecration. It is the sign that the kingdom is governing the inner court, and when the inner court is governed, you will find the outer courtyard very soon forgets to riot. Now let us name what stands before us so that it shrinks to its actual size. This is not your fear. Do you see that? It presents itself as your pulse, your history, your weakness, but it is not yours. It is a universal belief seeking a host. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, says the apostle, and that is as practical as a grocery list. You are not wrestling a personal condition or a personal failure. You are facing an impersonal suggestion that parades as person as symptom, as circumstance. It is weather, not identity. It is a draft under the door, not the house itself. Now, if you will accept this shift of locus, you will notice at once the pressure loosens, because shame cannot survive without a person to accuse, and panic cannot live without someone to inhabit. On the whole, the world believes in two powers, and from that belief springs fear, contagion, and competition of every sort. But there is only one. I am God, and there is none else. That one has no opposite, no rival, no other law. Infection and contagion have no law to support them. They are universal beliefs hung on hook after hook in the world's wardrobe. And every so often a passerby tries one on and says, "This is mine." No, refuse the fitting. Fear has no ordinance, no statute, no court by which to enforce itself except the court of your consent. If you do not answer the summons, the case collapses for want of jurisdiction. God hath not given us the spirit of fear, and if God hath not given it, who did? Only the dream of two powers, the hypnosis of appearances. Error has suggestion, not substance. So when the bill arrives, or the headline blazes, or the body speaks in a tongue of alarm, do not enter the case humanly. Do not say, "Why am I like this? Why are they doing this to me?" That "I" keeps the mask on the suggestion. Instead, say within yourself very quietly, "This is not about me or them. This is a universal belief passing. Refuse sides. Refuse blame. Refuse even the flattery of being a special target. We are on the middle path when we neither fear, love, nor hate any appearance, and depersonalizing the episode keeps us precisely there. You are not dealing with a good side and a bad side. You are facing a belief that has no law to maintain itself in the presence of the one. A student wrote from a small shop where, in a single afternoon, 3 customers had spoken of layoffs, shortages, and coming ruin. She felt the old clutch in the stomach and the quick plotting mind. Then she remembered, not my fear, not their fear, universal belief. She stood for a moment with her hand on the counter and said inwardly, "Right now I nullify any seeming effect from a universal belief. There is only one power." The atmosphere changed. Did the economy change in that instant? Perhaps not, but the court of her consent adjourned. And in that stillness, the right orders came, the right calls returned. More than that, her peace ceased to be a hostage to rumor. Do you see? The belief could not find an inhabitant. Let us make this a 30-second drill and keep it ready for every ordinary trigger. 2 slow breaths. Not to fix a body, but as a bell to call you home. Then whisper within, once and only once, "Right now I nullify any seeming effect of a universal belief. I do not react." Then a split second, the barest instant of silence without words. That is all. Do not argue with the suggestion. Do not decorate it with quotations. Let the whisper be a key that turns, and then let the door swing to silence. Be still and know. In that stillness, fear, having lost its personality and its audience, cannot perform. It dissolves like mist before the sun, not because you conquered it, but because in the one there was nothing for it to cling to. This is the reframe, and it will serve you everywhere. When fear is recognized as impersonal suggestion, its seeming power dissolves, the theater goes dark when the audience leaves. Withdraw your reaction, withdraw your identification, withdraw your consent, and stand without sides. In principle, no evil shall befall thee, not because you deserve special treatment, but because in the realization of one there is no law to sustain evil's claim. Let the belief pass as weather passes. You are not the sky's mood. You are the awareness before which clouds appear and disappear. Stand there and stand quiet. Now, having seen fear as a universal belief without law, let us turn to the storm itself and answer the question, which side are you on? None. Do you hear me? None. The whole trouble begins when you set up an inner courtroom, fear as prosecutor, you as defense, symptoms as witnesses, and a nervous judge trying to render a verdict before the facts are in. Refuse the court. Tear up the summons. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. And righteous judgment is simply this: there are no sides in God. There is only principle. You are not against a bad side nor for a good side. The instant you take sides, you have entered the case humanly, and panic has an opponent to wrestle. All right, we do not wrestle. We stand. Principle over personalities. Not even your own frightened self is the point, because that self is only the mask put on by a passing weather. Christ is the only identity. Let not your heart be troubled, not because you've selected a winning strategy, but because you have ceased to identify with the personality that requires a strategy. When Peter looked at the wind, he sank. When he looked at the master, he walked. You see? Your effectiveness is not determined by the temperature of the wind, nor by the volume of the waves. It is determined by where you stand and with whom you identify. If you stand in personality, you will take sides. If you stand in principle, there are no sides to take. Never enter the case humanly. Never advise yourself. Never bargain for outcomes. Do not say, if this eases, I will be grateful. Or, if they relent, I will forgive. That is not prayer. That is a contract with appearances. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Stand still means no inner lawyering, no haggling, no attempts to talk God into rescuing your preferred side. You are not here to save a storyline. You are here to witness the activity of the One. And yes, thoughts will come in a parade, arguments, rebuttals, pictures of loss and pictures of triumph. All right, let them come and let them go. You are not the usher hurriedly seating them. You are the space in which they lose interest. If the one that engaged you, the mind, the very pattern that hired you to fight its case, wants to lose, that's its business. Not even the side that hires you is your side. I have stood in rooms where labor and capital leaned against opposite walls, loaded with speeches. And I have stood in living rooms where husband and wife had piled up months of evidence. It would have been very easy to react, to decide, to prescribe. But the overcoming came only when I refused both scripts and yielded to principle Christ, the only identity there. The storm has no contestant, and so it spends itself. Peace, be still. Not to the persons, not to the terms of the bargain, but to the inner sea. And then without manipulation, one side says the one right word or no word at all, and the entire field shifts. If the one who engaged me wanted to lose, that was his business. My only interest was letting God have its perfect work. So we make this a simple drill, and we practice until it becomes a way of being. 2 slow breaths, not to tame a storm, but as a bell that reminds you the courtroom is closed. 1 silent beat, no words, no counsel, no verdict. Then say within, once and only once, I take no side. I abide in principle. I do not react. Again, a breath in, a breath out. Another bare beat of silence, as if listening for a friend who needs no syllables. That is all. No bargaining afterward. No watching to see which way the scales tip. Let the words fall away and remain where you have placed yourself in the One. A house divided against itself cannot stand, and fear's house is division. When you refuse sides, the house cannot stand, because there is nothing left for it to divide. Effectiveness arises when you refuse sides and stand in principle where panic has no opponent. Do you see? In the awareness of one, the storm may shout, but it cannot argue, for there is no second voice to answer it. Stand there Stand quiet and let what cannot stand fall. Now we come to the heart of it, the very hinge on which the door swings without a sound. Nobody, by taking thought, can contact God. Do you hear? Thought can memorize truth, rehearse truth, quote truth. It can even arrange the furniture of truth into a very handsome room, but the guest does not come because the furniture is well placed. There must come a split second, not long, not dramatic, in which thought ceases its useful bustling at the threshold and the door opens of itself. Be still and know that I am God. Not be eloquent, not be busy, not be right. Be still and know. The click is subtle. Do not wait for thunder. It is not a seizure. It is a release. It is the barest letting go, in which you are not reciting, not bargaining, not reaching. You are simply not doing. And presence announces itself as quietly as a lamp fills a room that had only seemed dark. Sometimes there is a warmth, sometimes a softness at the back of the mind, sometimes nothing you can name at all, and yet the argument in you has stopped. The need to monitor has stopped. The little inner lawyer has put down its brief. All right, that is enough. That click is not an emotion. It is cessation of self-activity. Take no thought for your life. That is the instruction. And the fulfillment of it is this instant you cannot manufacture and cannot miss when you cease trying to help God. Forget even the truth you knew for a moment. Not to dishonor it, but to stop leaning on it as if it were a crutch and not a doorway. Lay down for one breath. God is all. Lay down. There is only one power. Lay down every noble scripture, and let I, God, be the solution to all problems. I, God. Do you hear the grammar of that? Not my thought about God, not my best understanding of God, but I, God. We are not using God to do anything. We are not invoking a power to beat a power. God is not power as the world thinks of power. God is presence, and presence requires no opponent. So we practice in the smallest measure, and we practice often. Use breath only as an usher to the sanctuary, not as a lever. 2 slow breaths, as if you are being led to your seat. That is all breath is for a bell, a signal, a gentle knocking. Then 1 to 2 seconds, no more, is required of bare silence, no statement, no inner nod to a favorite passage, no reaching even for peace. The door opens in that fraction, or it does not, and either way you are faithful, and that faithfulness is the opening. Then, after the barest pause, only then and only once, say within, be not afraid, it is I, and be finished. Do not add a tale of commentary. Do not peep to see if anything has changed. Let the words fall away and rest. I sat in a corridor outside an emergency room, once, fluorescence buzzing, shoes squeaking, a clock that refused to be kind. Every sentence I had ever loved stood up to volunteer. All right, sit down. 2 breaths. A sliver of silence with no adornment, nothing to say, and then at the end only once. Be not afraid. It is I. That was all. The corridor did not soften. The clock kept its pace, but the sense of a me trying to rescue a situation was gone. In that absence, calls were made, doors opened, right hands arrived at the right moment. Did silence move the world? No, silence moved the self that had been trying to move the world. And in that movement, or rather in that stillness, fear had nowhere to anchor. This is your micro-practice, 45 seconds, that can be taken between a headline and the next breath, between the knock at the door and the turning of the knob, between the ache and the next step. 2 slow breaths, 1 or 2 seconds of bare silence, no statement. Then, softly, once only, be not afraid, it is I. If the sensation returns, we do not argue, we return. We return because transformation does not come by the weight of our words, but by the weightlessness of our yielding. The instant you touch that wordless presence, even if only as the absence of reaching, fear is not there to be contacted. Do you see? The transformation begins in a wordless instant where presence is contacted and fear is not. Stand there a moment and let what needs to act out of that. Now, I must say something that will offend the old theology in us, and it must be said if we are to be free. God isn't mind. God isn't even soul. Nobody knows what God is. Do you see? The moment you try to make of God a describable something, a definable faculty, a trained power at your command, you have returned to the marketplace of two powers, and fear has its stall again. God is not power against something. As long as you are reaching for a bigger power to conquer a smaller power, you have enthroned both and chained yourself to their contest. Resist not evil, said the Master, not because evil is to be tolerated, but because in the kingdom there is no second to resist. Not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Spirit is not a weapon. Spirit is presence. Now, look at how we pray when we are frightened. God, come and beat this thing for me. Come and make it stop. All right? And the fear, smart as a fox, says, good, acknowledge me as a something to be beaten, and I will live off your attention. If you ask God to conquer fear, you are keeping fear alive as rival. You have granted it standing, jurisdiction, evidence, and you have dragged the infinite into your courtroom as hired counsel. Refuse the case. Put up again thy sword into his place. For every time you pull a sword in God's name, you have announced a battle that requires a second. There is only one. The absence of a second cancels combat and reveals peace. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. One Lord does not fight. One Lord simply is. And in the isness of that one, the shadow named fear has nothing to press against. Be not afraid, it is I. Not, it is I come to wrestle your terror to the floor. Simply, it is I. No contest, only presence. Do you see the grammar of salvation? The storm is loud, the boat is small, the nerves are quick, but the I, that is, I am, does not arrive as force. It reveals itself as the only, and when the only is seen, the opposite is not conquered. It is canceled by the fact that it never had law. That is why the Master could sleep in the boat. No second power meant no battle to stay awake for. The battle is not yours, the Scripture says, but let us go further. In God, there is no battle. One night a man wrote of waking at 3 with the old terrors that used to send him pacing the hall, stacking scriptures like sandbags. He remembered the practice, 2 breaths not to arm himself, but to lay down arms, a bare pause, the little click when self-activity ceases. Then once only, I do not employ God to fight, I withdraw reaction. One power is present. After that, nothing. No scouting for results. The house did not suddenly glow with angels. The clock did not stop, but the inner courtroom closed. In the quiet that followed, the body that had been braced to do battle softened, and the one right next step became obvious. A glass of water, a window unlatched, a return to bed without a sentry's vigil. Did God defeat fear? No. The pretense of rivalry was withdrawn, and with no opponent to spar, fear fell through its own ring. Let us seal this with a 30-second drill, and let it become an instinct whenever the old impulse reaches for a weapon labeled prayer. Inhale gently, exhale, and with the out-breath set down your sword. 1 second, perhaps 2, of bare silence in which you do not think about God, you do not speak to God, you do not try to feel God, you simply stop. Then say within once only, I do not employ God to fight. I withdraw reaction. One power is present. Be finished. Do not add counsel. Do not peer at the appearance to see if it salutes. Rest as if you have just heard, be not afraid, it is I. When you cease using God as a weapon, fear loses the only fight that kept it alive. You are no longer a combatant, you are a witness to the one. And as witness, you will find yourself strangely free to act without hurry, without nerves, without bargaining, because action will rise not from defense, but from presence. This is the end of the inner war. This is the Sabbath of the heart that can stand in a world of headlines and bills and body sensations and say, not defiantly, not desperately, but simply one. And in one, the wind forgets whom to push. Now let us come home to the counter, the mailbox, the glowing screen, the skin, the places where fear whispers in a familiar voice and expects us to salute. We will not make a religion out of unusual hours and special rooms. We will practice where the day actually meets us, and we will keep it very simple. In ordinary triggers, non-reaction plus a moment of silence breaks fear's daily spell. That is our drill. Not to win an argument with the world, not to force outcomes, but to withdraw our consent from the hypnotism of appearances and let principle govern, be still, and know that I am God. Not be busy, not be clever. Be still and know. The bill arrives. Do you know that little clench behind the ribs, the quick draft of figures, the bargain you try to strike in the air? All right. Do not draft your case for or against. Do not compose a prayer with numbers in it. Sit 1 minute in silence. 2 slow breaths only as a bell to call you home. 1 or 2 seconds of bare quiet in which you say nothing at all. Then once only within. Don't react to the appearances. There is only one power. Be finished. No scanning the ledger to see if God blinks. Out of that quiet, you will find the same next step rising of itself. Perhaps a call, perhaps a postponement, perhaps a small payment, perhaps an unexpected clarity about what to release. Your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. We do not invoke a God to pay a bill. We rest in the presence in which lack has no law, and we act from calm, not from fear. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Let that be the atmosphere in which you move, not the lever you pull to move a mountain. The headlines flare, and the notifications march across the palm like messengers with torches. Crisis, scandal, forecast, blame. All right? Neither absorb nor resist. Absorbing gives the belief a home. Resisting gives it a sparring partner. Recognize at once. Universal belief. Not this anchor's voice. Not that politician's face belief in 2 powers dressed for the evening news. Refuse sides. Let not your heart be troubled. You are not indifferent to the world. You are faithful to the one. Sit a half minute or a full one if it is given to you. 2 breaths, a sliver of silence. Then once only, don't react to the appearances. There is only one power. Be finished. Now, if an act of neighborliness arises, do it. If a donation is right, give it. If the screen can be closed for an hour, close it. Principle over panic. You are not here to amplify rumor. You are here to be a transparency for peace. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. And the body, how quickly it borrows the world's tongue. A twinge here, a pressure there, a flutter that makes a small theater of the chest at midnight. Do not enter the case humanly. Drafts and germs are not law. They are universal beliefs that have been given a badge by common consent. No evil shall befall thee, not as a contract, but as the recognition that in one there is no opposite with statute or sting. Meet the sensation with non-reaction and simple care, not alarm. A late-night flutter came once, sharp and insistent as a knock that would not be denied. The impulse was to measure, to time, to call for second opinions inside the skull. All right? No side taken. Sit up. 2 breaths. A minute of silence. Empty of words. Empty of verdicts. Then, once only, don't react to the appearances. There is only one power. Nothing dramatic followed, no choir, no blaze, but the inner sea grew quiet. The flutter passed as a wave passes, and the one ordinary kindness presented itself. A slow walk to the sink, a sip of water, the window cracked, the bed received me without a guard at the gate. Do you see? Not conquest cessation. Not a bigger power routed a smaller power, the make-believe of rivalry dissolved. Make this your micro-practice, and make it often 45 seconds that redeem a day. 2 slow breaths, 2 seconds of bare silence in which you do not think about God and you do not think about fear. Then, softly and once only, don't react to the appearances. There is only one power. Be finished. Proceed with the ordinary duty at hand. Balance the figures, wash the cup, answer the mail, step into the meeting without hurry, without nerves, without bargaining. Do not check the sky for omens. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. That peace is not an outcome. It is the presence you carry into outcomes. And in that presence, fear has nowhere to land. So we do not wait for grand occasions. We consecrate the small. Bills, headlines, body sensations. These become bells that call us home. And each time you refuse reaction and give one bare instant to silence, you are training the inner court to close at the first sound of accusation. In that court, there is no trial, no witness, no rival, only the one. And in the one, the wind forgets whom to push. Now, having taken the little drills into the shop and the kitchen and the midnight corridor, let us speak of time, because here is where even earnest students stumble. Don't look at your demonstration day by day. Do you hear? Monitoring is still reaction. It is the ego standing at the window every 10 minutes to check whether the fruit tree has budded, and in that very impatience the roots are disturbed. First the blade, then the ear, after that the full corn in the ear. That is not an agricultural lesson. It is the ethic of spiritual ripening. We are not running a stopwatch on God. We are consenting to an order that reveals itself when self-activity is quiet. All right, let it ripen. Let maturity bring to light Saul of Tarsus. Do you suppose he fell from his horse one afternoon and preached the next morning? No, not that man who had an edifice of law in him to be unlearned. Years past 9, the old teachers say, before he went out. And then when he spoke, it was not the heat of a convert. It was the weight of ripeness. Do you see? The inner struggle works like leaven. It is hidden, silent, sure. If you keep cutting into the loaf to see if it has risen, you have only ruined your supper for the sake of curiosity, and curiosity is merely fear disguised as care. Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord. Behold, the husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth. Wait, not idly, but faithfully, not nervously, but still. Outcome detachment is part of this ripening. If spiritual harmony can only be achieved through a change of circumstance, let's have it. If a partnership needs to end for peace to reveal itself, let's have it. If the move across town or the closing of a door is the one straight line for principle to express, let's have it. We are not in love with appearances, even the comfortable ones. We love the one, never desire to change appearances. Desire only to witness God's activity, and if the appearance must change as a result, it will change without our bargaining. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Not my will, done on my timetable, thy will revealed when the ripeness of silence allows it to break the skin of the day. Now, how will you measure? Not by a scoreboard of how fast a fear vanished, not by how many hours went by without a twinge, not by charts you keep on the inside of your eyelids. Measure by peace between episodes. by the ease with which you return to silence when the bell rings, by the shortening of the inner argument after the first whisper, "Be not afraid, it is I." Do you see that? The space between alarms widens, the compulsion to check loosens, the old taste for struggle grows stale, and you forget to count victories because there are no sides to keep score. That, not spectacle, is maturity. A woman wrote and said, "I have practiced this, but I still found myself jolted awake 3 nights this week." All right, and did you run a tally in the dark? Did you assemble the jury? Or did you, without nerves, take 2 breaths, let 1 second of wordless stillness open the door, whisper once, "Don't react to the appearances, there is only one power," and be finished? She answered, "Yes," and I went back to sleep. But I wish it would stop happening. There, the wish to monitor is the last thread of fear asking to be fed. We are not here to wish away the weather. We are here to forget we ever had a barometer. So we seal this with a 30-second practice to end checking and chasing. 2 slow breaths, not to hasten a harvest, but as a bell to remind you there is a season. 1 to 2 seconds of bare silence, no report, no comparison, no verdict. Then, once only, say within, "I let God have its perfect work. I do not check or chase. Be finished. Close the inner ledger. If action is given you, act without nerves. If waiting is given you, wait without sulking. In your patience possess ye your souls. Growth is ripened, not rushed." Release outcomes and remain faithful to silence, and you will wake one morning to find that what needed to fall has fallen, what needed to blossom has blossomed, without your watchtower, without your whip, without your worry, as quietly as dawn unties the night. Now, there will be nights, and you know them, when the old fear returns as if it had a key to your door, and you will be tempted to bring out the arsenal of statements, to march up and down the hallway of your mind reciting truth to drown a drum. Do not, "This kind goeth not out, but by prayer and fasting." Not fasting from bread merely, but from the impulse to fill the silence with your cleverness. Prayer and fasting here means withdraw from all statements, all inner speeches, even the noblest, and sit as one who is not hungry for relief and not thirsty for signs. All right, be still. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Do you see that? Quietness, not argument. Confidence, not contest. Fasting from mental truth-telling is the hardest lesson for the devout, because we have been trained to think that more truth said is more God contacted. Nobody, by taking thought, can contact God. There must come a split second, and sometimes many small seconds strung like beads through a night, in which you put down even God is all, even one power, even be not afraid, and you let I, God, be the answer to every question. Not my thought about God, not my best phrasing to coax the universe, just the vacancy in which presence announces itself. All right? That is the fasting. To be unhungry for proof, unhungry for a quicker dawn, uninterested in timing, willing to sit empty and let spirit be spirit without your prompting. I have watched with students in short watches 15 minutes on the hour, then sleep, then 15 again. No words, no reading, no memorized shield, only the bell of 2 breaths and the barest pause, as if listening for footfall in a house you know is occupied, though you cannot see the guest. "What? Could ye not watch with me 1 hour?" the master asked. And if an hour is not given, give a minute, but give it purely. The click will come in its own hour. Do not pull at it like a latch. Sometimes at 1 in the morning, nothing. At 3, nothing. At 4, a softness so ordinary you miss it if you are watching for fireworks. And yet the knot that had sat like a stone in the chest is not being fed, and because it is not fed, it must loosen. Again and again, Stubborn fear unravels precisely where we have given it no argument and no ally. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Waiting is not sulking. Waiting is fidelity without embroidery. A man wrote, I kept silence and became more afraid. I answered, all right, become more afraid and keep silence. You see, we are not bargaining with sensation. We are fasting from reaction. The fear swells when it thinks it can draw you into a debate. It withers when the courtroom is closed. Sit as a witness only. Do not recruit God as counsel. Do not recruit yourself as counsel. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Stand still means let the parade pass without saluting and without throwing stones. Now make this simple, because simplicity is mercy to the nerves. A 60-second fast, no words. Sit or stand where you are. 4 quiet breaths, each breath separated by 2 seconds of bare silence. Inhale gently, exhale without a project, wait 2 seconds empty, again inhale, exhale 2 seconds empty, again inhale, exhale 2 seconds empty. Again inhale, exhale 2 seconds empty. Then, only once, at the end, say within, I do not react. Be finished. No tail. No check. If another wave comes, we do not explain. We repeat. These are watches, not wrestlings. Let the minutes be stones laid quietly along a path you will find yourself walking without hurry. This kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting. Prayer without words is not nothing. It is reverence so complete that it refuses to crowd the altar. Fasting without hunger for outcomes is not apathy. It is trust so simple that timing is left to God. And in that trust, the old fear, which depends on your appetite and your arsenal, finds no purchase, no pantry, no opponent. It starves, and you, unhurried, unarmed, discover that what needed to be done is done out of presence and not out of panic. Be still, wait, and let the one be one. Now let us seal the day, because a way that does not return to the kitchen, the tram, the parking lot, is only theater. This is the day which the Lord hath made. We will rejoice and be glad in it, not Sunday only, this day, whatever its errands. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath, which means anywhere is consecrated when you enter in spirit and in truth. Do you see? We will make a rite so simple the nerves do not bristle, so brief the mind does not bargain, so faithful the old visitor called fear will have no doorstep left on which to set down its bag. Morning, before the foot touches the floor, pause. Do not enter the case of the day with your planning. 2 slow breaths to ring the bell. 1 or 2 seconds of bare silence. No statement, no schedule, nothing. Then, softly, once. Don't react to the appearances. There is only one power. Rise, dress, make the coffee, but make them as one who carries a quiet closet within. Enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. The door is a second of silence. The closet is the heart where no argument lives. Midday, when the machinery of headlines and messages has warmed to a hum, pause. You might be at a crosswalk. You might be washing a plate. You might be unlocking the phone. Make the unlock a bell. Let every doorway be a bell. Let the car door, the elevator chime, the faucet handle become signals. Be still. Do not react. Proceed. All right? 2 breaths. A sliver of silence. Then, once only, don't react to the appearances. There is only one power. Put down the device or pick it up as given, but pick it up from stillness, not from nerves. Pray without ceasing does not mean recite without rest. It means keep the line unburdened by chatter so the split-second click can come whenever the bell rings. Evening, When the day has scattered its little dramas like papers on a desk, pause at the threshold of rest. Do not inventory victories and defeats. Monitoring is still reaction. 2 slow breaths, 1 or 2 seconds, empty. Softly, once. Don't react to the appearances. There is only one power. Lay the head down inside that sentenceless presence and let the night keep watch. I will both lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety. Not as a contract, as atmosphere. The kingdom is within, let the covers be its veil. And now, community, because holiness that stops at the self is only half learned. Refuse sides in another's storm. When a friend rages, when a partner trembles, when a colleague indicts the hour, do not enter the case humanly with advice and edicts. Be a transparency for principle. Listen without absorbing, refuse to resist, and silently take your 2 breaths. A second of wordless room. Then, within yourself, once only, don't react to the appearances. There is only one power. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Righteous judgment is not choosing a better side. It is consenting to the one until the better step reveals itself without your pushing. Sometimes that step is a word, sometimes a glass of water, sometimes a quiet departure, not even the side that hires you. Christ is the only identity. Let Christ's stillness do the heavy lifting. Let us close with a gentle pattern you can carry, like a small stone in the pocket. 45 seconds, 2 breaths unhurried, 1 to 2 seconds of bare silence. Then, quietly, don't react to the appearances. There is only one power. Again, a breath, a second of emptiness, the same sentence. A 3rd time breath, pause. Don't react to the appearances. There is only one power. Be finished. No tail. No check. Go on with the next, right, ordinary thing. If you will let morning, midday, and evening be sanctified by this trifling consecration, and if you will let doors and screens and small bells throughout the day become cues for a half minute of non-reaction, you will discover that fear is a visitor with no address. The hour cometh, and now is, when ye shall neither in this mountain, nor yet at Jerusalem, worship the Father. They that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Spirit has no rival. Truth has no opponent. Make non-reaction and brief silence your daily right, and appearances will have nowhere to land, and you, unhurried, will walk in the one that has been won all along.